Okay, welcome back, and today we have the better looking half with us to help react to George Janko and Bryce Crawford. So let's take a little look.
Firstly,
What?
I used to get one like that.
I don't know if I'd wear that.
I think next video we do like this, we should have matching tops like that on.
We look so...
You get into high school, you're just like problems kind of like compile on top of each other, and it's just things become a little bit more serious. You're growing up. If I pulled out my phone right now and showed you like my Snapchat memories, like a silly 13-year-old, 14-year-old kid, every night I've got pictures and videos of me crying, complaining about my anxiety and depression, like killing me, just complaining about my life. On the outside, when I would go to school, like genuinely, people loved me. I remember my freshman year, everybody loved me, but I would be a different person to everyone because I just wanted to feel loved. I had like that hole inside my heart. And so I wasn't filling it with drugs or substances. I was like filling it with, oh, let me get this person to like me and this person to like me, even if I got to be two different people to them, because maybe their validation is going to make me feel better about myself. And then I'd still go home and be like upset and anxious and depressed.
Were you able to reflect your actions like this when you were doing them? Like, were you knowing that you were doing this, or did this all come to you after?
I think like sometimes I would know like I would have to do certain things to get people to like me, but it just became a part of me because I was so used to doing it for everyone. So I was just like kind of like people pleasing and doing it and wanting people to love me. And I would go home and cry, and I was doing 3 sports in high school, and I was doing everything. And people actually viewed me as this Christian who loved God. But deep down, I had this harbored resentment towards God.
Funny. That's really funny, because now you're explaining to me hypocrisy.
Literally, I was a hypocrite.
You were angry with people doing that, and you became that for others.
Yeah.
And you know, I've realized, an atheist friend of mine told me this, and it stuck with me. He goes, the things that bother you the most in others are what it bothers you about yourself.
Yeah, it was just like tormenting, and I never opened up to it about anyone. I would just like...
Not even family members?
Not even family. I tried to. I would have these like 6-month, 7-month buildup of like storing this bitterness and anger in my heart, and then I would have like a blow up one night in front of my parents, and they would just be like, you're fine. Like, you're not, you know, like, and I'm not like downing them. I just think that they didn't understand it because I was never telling them often. It would just be like a build up over 6, 7, 8 months. It would happen, and they were just kind of like, what? And then I would like go back. I'd go to my room and just like be crying, like they don't understand, and then just kind of shove it under like keep the ice cube under the fridge. 6, 7, 8 months go by. Boom, build up, blow up. You're fine. You're fine. You're not upset. I don't understand. Like everything's okay. Okay, go back. You know. And it was just the same thing every night though. Like I was so depressed and anxious, and genuinely like people would lean on me for a biblical understanding and as like a Christ-like figure, even though deep down I was the biggest hypocrite on the planet. My junior year, the year that I gave my life to Jesus, and I put my faith and trust in him, the beginning of my junior year, my grandfather got pancreatic cancer.
You know, don't you think that's like literally so many people?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like they know who God is, but they don't actually know him on a personal relationship level.
Oh yeah, I even just like so many people putting on a front. I don't even know what to do half the time to like please others, or instead of actually finding a relationship for himself.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to get like that gratification. Is that the word?
You're asking the wrong person if gratification is a word. Validation.
Kind of.
Thirst for sexual gratification. Is that what you were thinking about?
Probably validation, that's the word. When they don't have that themselves and truly rooted in Jesus, it's like trying to find it through other people, through friends, through relationships. And that's why I like people pleasing. And
he was in the hospital, and that stuff is like no joke. Like you really can't do anything about it. And I remember my family, it was kind of like, there was kind of like this unintentional weight on my shoulders of like, hey, you got to make sure he gets saved before he passes away, because we know Grandy's not a believer. Like we got to just make sure. And I know that they weren't intentionally putting that on me, but that weight was like, it was just like, you're the Christian, you go to private Christian school, like you got to handle this. And my dad would ask me to go to the hospital with him, and I would just kind of like push it away because I was like, I'm going to go hang out with friends. I'm going to go do my thing. I never prioritized it because deep down, his soul wasn't a priority to me because Jesus wasn't a priority in my life. Like if I really cared about his soul, I would have gone because like I knew how Jesus affected my life, but I just kept pushing it off. And then one night, my dad said, hey, do you want to come with me to visit? And I was like, no, I'm not going. I'm just going to hang out here. Well, that night, he ends up passing away. And I took on this burden of, it's my fault. I should have shared the gospel with him, and I never did. And even though I don't believe it, it was my fault. And so I already had this depression, anxiety, and then having this weight of feeling like I was responsible for someone's eternal destination because of my actions and because of my selfish heart. Oh, I'm not going to go visit him. I don't want to visit him. Like, I'm not going to go. I'm just going to do my own thing. I'm going to go hang out with friends that I see every day. I'm just going to go spend time with them. Like that hurt me. And it tormented me.
How are you doing now?
Another thing. I think him saying, explaining that it wasn't a priority for him. What did he say? Like he
other, like, Jesus wasn't a priority, therefore other people's souls. And, like, eternity wasn't a priority.
That's really good, because I think as Christians, when we're fully in relationship with God, we should almost feel like the responsibility that we are, that there's that Bible verse in, what was it? I think it's Ephesians. Yeah, in Ephesians it says God calls us to walk in a manner worthy of the calling, and obviously the great calling is to go and make disciples of all nations. And I think when we understand that relationship truly with God, it almost becomes like so selfish for us to not want to extend that to other people and try share that with other people.
Doesn't it might make you like dead convicted? Because I did. When I listened to it the other day, I was like, oh my days, like, because like with friends, like your friends who don't really know Jesus, like family who don't know Jesus, or people that like aren't really walking with him. There's someone who's like fully walking with Jesus, like in daily, really, and like as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Like to then sit back and think, like I like don't all like really open that conversation all the time.
Yeah,
and just like kind of like, oh, like I'll get to it when we're older, get to it another day, get to it.
Yeah, I was going to say that it makes me
sad, but that day might not come.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like someone could just die tomorrow. That's a bit morbid, but like that's the reality.
Yeah. And I think it makes me realise, actually, that is how we want to walk. That is the manner in which we should walk, with that calling of God upon us.
And like being more proactive about it.
Yeah, which is hard. It's really difficult.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, there's like, just like being proactive and then just like, letting it linger, but not like grabbing the opportunities.
But yeah,
like, even making the opportunities.
I think the conviction of knowing that we know this incredible thing, Jesus, that can change your life, it can transform your life, and for us to be so selfish not to share that, I don't know, I just feel convicted with that sometimes.
I'm doing way better now, for sure, because months I just carried this burden, and I shared with you guys like his wife, my grandma, absolute saint, just loves Jesus and is so passionate about Jesus. A few months later, it was in October, my junior year, because I surrendered to Jesus in December. I'm beating myself up in my car after practice one day, and I just am crying in my car. I just can't believe, even though I didn't even believe in God for myself, I'm like, is he in hell? Like, is that my fault? Mm-hmm. Like, what, that's just, I just felt so ashamed. And then I literally felt audible, like he's okay, just in my car. And I'm just kind of like freaking out. So I'm crying, and I call my grandma and I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know. I feel like this is my fault. Like I didn't, I'm just like, just kind of dumping it, all this stuff I'm holding in. And she was like, I visited him a few days before he passed away, and he put his faith in Jesus, and we got to have conversations that we didn't get to have before he passed away. And like, it's not like, it's not like the relief of like, oh, that, it's not my fault anymore. It's just like God got done what he needed to get done, even though I said no. Mm-hmm. It was just like, he got done like what he needed to get done. And it like, so that night I went home and I made a video on TikTok. Like, you guys won't believe this. Like, I just had this thing happen to me. Like, God's like touching me right now. I don't know what's going on. And then I just posted, go to sleep, wake up, 3 million people saw it. 90,000 people followed me on TikTok, and they were all asking me questions about God. And I am so flustered because I don't even have a relationship with him. I just shared an experience I had with him. And I wasn't even like trying to get people to see the video. I was just like so touched. I was like, he had so much grace for me. I didn't even know,
There's so much to unpack here, man, because I'm praying that I say this correctly, but from my perspective, it seems to me that no man is wise enough or strong enough to do God's will. He makes that man strong enough and wise enough. Mm-hmm. And I think that he could have easily let you know that your grandfather is saved before you went through this mental breakdown. But I think he withheld that wisdom from you so you could feel this type of pain. So that way when you're out in public and somebody says something rude to you or hurtful to you or says something to make you angry, you have this level of remorse because you've already felt what if, God forbid, could have been if you leave somebody high and dry before they accept Christ. Yeah. And I know you were like, well, I didn't know God, but you're honest. You said you didn't know God. I know people that are like Pharisees where they pretend they know God just for that reward. but you're honest and you're like, I don't know God. And if I could use myself as an example to help other people know God, then I'll take that. And I think that's why God chose you. And so I want to take it back even further, because there is kids that walk in your footsteps where they feel like, you know what, I've handled this anxiety and depression. I've tried every single thing, including God, and you have. But some people want to take their life, and they just feel like they've given it their all. And I know that that's something that's tough that you dealt with. And I would really like to dive into that if you don't mind, and if you're comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That battle of like wanting to take my life was a hidden battle no one knew about. Like I shared it with my mom like a few months ago, and she was just kind of like shocked, because
you never know.
But like that's the reality. Like you don't know. Like you just don't know when someone's feeling that way or going through that. And so after I had that experience with my grandfather and things like that, I would try to talk about Jesus, because I felt like this responsibility after I made that video, and all these people were like, tell me more. And so I would just like share what I was learning in school for 2 weeks, and then just completely stop talking about God and was doing my own thing. And because I didn't have a relationship with him, like it wasn't important to me. It was just, I got to do this because people are asking me about it. And it wasn't genuine. So you can't fake it. I couldn't fake it for 2 weeks. It was just, I tried and I couldn't. And that's just honest. Like I tried to fake it. And so after that, just spiraled back in, even though that like just powerful like moment with God and release with my grandfather, it was just still anxiety and depression. And that stuff just feels like an incurable disease. And I think the biggest
really high highs and really low lows is nauseating. And sometimes you're like, the highs aren't even worth it. I don't want this anymore.
Right.
I understand what you're saying.
It's just like the only way you feel like you can get rid of the pain is if you take your own life, because it's like, it's miserable right now. That's the lie. It's like, you're never going to get over this. So if you take your life, the pain's going to go away. Mm-hmm. And that was just the lie I was believing. Yeah,
it's a dark lie. Sometimes the lies even are like, it's better off without you.
Right.
And sometimes you feel like you're doing other people a favor.
Right.
And that's crazy, man.
So crazy.
It's crazy. I'm so grateful you didn't. But let's talk about why, because that is God showing favor more than I've ever. And I want people to see a man like you, because like we see so many people sit on stage that are passionate about God, and they want to hide all of their problems. But the truth is, if we hid Paul's problems, if we hid Simon's problems, if we hid all of these people's problems, we wouldn't be able to see God's glory. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot coming from you. So let's take it back to Waffle House.
Yeah.
I want you to paint me how you felt.
Yeah. It was on Christmas, December 25th, 2020. I'll never forget the date.
About hiding problems. I don't know how to explain what I'm thinking.
I was thinking, like you're leaving yourself, like I said, like you're leaving yourself high and dry, because you're not leaving any room for people to help, like be accountable with you. And then 90% of the people who like fall or like anything happens like that is because they don't have any sort of accountability to anybody apart from like themselves. Yeah, which isn't helpful at all.
And I think there's so many people that have been through it before. And you might not know that, but the whole point is, if you're open and vulnerable and honest, that'll encourage other people to be, and other people that might have been through that and come out the other side, who can then give you that godly wisdom and advice that you need. So yeah, I think it's definitely something that, like in the church, people need to be encouraged to be really open, and not just encouraged to pray it away. Yeah. But actually encouraged to
like practically work it out with people.
Yeah, and like find the help and support, rather than like, prayer is amazing and that should kind of be like the foundation that keeps you going through it all, but there's more you can do.
It's kind of lazy, isn't it, as well? Like lazy pastoring. Like lazy pastoral work, like I'll just pray about it.
Yeah. When really there'll be plenty of people in a church community who are equipped to be able to help you with that.
Yeah, because no one's ever like the first person to go through something.
No, exactly.
And I'm glad he talked about suicide, purely because I feel like I've never gone through anything like that. Mm-hmm. So I hear someone talk about it in that sense, and like what it's actually kind of felt like. Mm-hmm. It's just like quite insightful.
Yeah,
do you know what
definitely. I mean? Yeah.
And from like a biblical point of view.
Mm-hmm. And people who are struggling with that need to hear it, and hearing someone like Bryce's testimony, that, I mean, we've not got to the end, but I'm guessing he kind of comes out the other side. So hearing it from someone who does like come through it, and God does help him,
and he's still so young, so it's so relatable to people.
Like that can be a beacon of hope for people when they might not have hope any other way, or through any other forming a life.
Buildup of anxiety and depression over the years, and I'd had thoughts of taking my own life, but I felt like Christmas that day, interactions with friends and family that day just weren't the best, and I struggled with feeling loved, and I was like, this is the most unloved I felt on like a day where you give gifts and it's like the season of giving, and I'm like, this isn't cool. And it's like, you have the thoughts of like, oh, maybe I'm gonna do it, like contemplation, but I was like, this is the day where I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm fed up and I'm just tired of feeling this way. I'm tired of feeling unloved. Maybe it's better if I'm not here. Maybe the anxiety and depression will go away. Like, I don't know. And so after we got done doing Christmas with our families or whatever, we came home. I love Waffle House. Waffle House is my favorite restaurant on the planet, hands down. And it was the only thing open on Christmas. Like, if Waffle House is shut down, like, the world's actually ending. Like, they're always open. Like, they never ever close. And so I knew it was open, and I just told my parents. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna go get Waffle House for a snack. But deep down, I like set it. I had everything set. Like, I was set. I had. Am I allowed to get detailed? Or like, how detailed?
However comfortable you are.
I just like wrote letters. So I had like letters to my family and stuff like that, and like I had like a note with like password on my phone and just where stuff was, voice memos, like all this other stuff. And then my grandfather, when I was young, my other grandfather, he used to carry this knife called a hawk's bill knife, and it literally the blade kind of looks like an eagle's beak, like it just kind of curves and it's like a thick blade. And he had given one to me, and so I had it. And so my plan was just to take my life with that knife. Really,
it's a brutal way to go out.
Brutal, but
were you punishing yourself? Were you angry with yourself? Is that why you chose that type of like way?
I don't think. I didn't really like, I wasn't like trying to punish myself. I wasn't like, oh, I'm just trying to go out painful. I think I was just like, it was accessible.
You didn't know any other way?
It wasn't obvious. Like, it was in my nightstand. It was just like, I can do this quick and no one's going to question anything. Like, I'm just going to do it. And so I went to Waffle House to kind of get like my last meal and run away from my problems. I walk in, slam packed. Everybody's there. And I if you struggle with anxiety or depression, even when you have a hard day, sometimes you just don't want to be around people. Sometimes you just kind of want to be alone. And I walk into the busiest restaurant, Waffle House, I've ever seen in my life. And I knew that because I was there alone, I wouldn't get to sit at a booth or anything. And so I grabbed this random guy, like 30 something years old. And I'm like, hey, I'll pay for your meal if you sit with me. I'm just trying to eat right now. He's like, okay. So we sit down pretty quick. And as soon as we sit down, he starts dumping his life problems on me. And that has nothing to do with Jesus. Just my wife's divorcing me. This is my last time with the kids. She's taking the kids from me, taking my money. I got nothing left. I'm losing it. Last Christmas with our family, just going. And I'm like sitting there just thinking, you have no idea what I'm about to do, dude. And you're complaining to me about like your family situation and this and that. And I'm thinking like, I'm about to go home and make a decision that I can't revoke. And you're sitting here complaining about this. That's what's going through my brain. I'm like weighed down, sad, like eye bags, like sad, like my eyelids just sagging, not because I'm tired, because I'm just...
You think it's your last day?
Yeah, it's just like, oh, this is really it. And he's just talking, and I'm just trying to eat my all-star special. I'm just like, get me out of here. Like, I want to...
It's crazy, and I make jokes because I deflect, but it's the perfect storm. You know what I'm saying? It's the perfect storm. So please continue.
So he's just talking. I'm hearing some, not hearing everything, just kind of in my own lane. And then I just hear him say, I love my wife. She doesn't feel the same about me. There's no growth in a relationship if the love isn't mutual. And when he said that, it was just like an arrow struck my heart. And all of that head knowledge I had about Jesus was just flashing in my brain. Scriptures I'd heard when I was growing up in church, I would memorize the verse of the week so I could get a prize out of the treasure box. All these scriptures I'd memorized when I was a little kid, flashing through my brain. Stuff I'd learned in school, flashing through my brain. The gospel finally making sense to me. Like all these things, just supernatural understanding of like who God is, because he said there's no growth in a relationship if the love isn't mutual. And I went, man, I must have felt like God didn't love me because he was pursuing me and I wasn't even giving him a chance to love him back. And I never experienced any growth in that relationship because I just didn't have love for him. And so I couldn't experience his love because I just wasn't even giving my heart a chance to open up for it. I wasn't giving my chance to like receive it. And so I'm like sitting there having this, it felt like the whole world stopped. And I'm like, I like literally feel, I've never felt this before. I literally feel the feeling I felt right now when I was sitting there, like just so real. Like, I just like feel so bad. Like when people message me or like when people like talk to me in person, they say like, man, like I just want to like take my own life. Cause sometimes when people say that and like, oh, they'll say that to people and sometimes people don't understand, but like, it's just real. It's so real feeling. And after I have this moment, I just kind of like, I kind of freak out because I've never felt anything like it. I've never experienced anything like it. So I just kind of like throw money on the counter, like to pay for the meal. And I just like walk out and he's freaking out. People are freaking out because they're like, this kid, this random guy, like blow up, like something happened. And I like went in my car and I was just like, God, if you're real, take away my anxiety and depression. Because deep down, like, I really don't want to do this right now. Like, I don't. And I was just like, if you're real, take away my anxiety and depression. And like, since that day, sitting here, no more anxiety or depression. And that was like my cracked door to just like get in the way of like, man, God, like, you got to be real. And so instead of taking my life, I gave my life to somebody who wanted it. And so that's why I want to tell people about Jesus, not because I'm not trying to like run up my cards of like, you gave your life to Jesus today, check the box, give it to me so I can run up my stats so I look good. Like, I don't care about that. Like, I got transformed from something that felt incurable. And because of that, like, I want to share that opportunity with people.
That line you said was, I didn't want my life, so I gave it to someone that wanted it.
Don't you think that's just so cool?
Yeah.
I don't know, like, you know, like people talk about testimonies and like people give like the testimony, no matter, to a point, like no matter what it is. I don't know, it always like gets you so excited because it's like physical. It's like a case study of like what God's doing like right now.
I think like hearing like real evidence of God working in people's lives and God changing someone's life in a moment like that, which isn't like, you don't see often at all.
No.
For most people, it's a journey and a process, and that's just as amazing. But it just, when you hear something like that, it just shows you how great the power of God is. Like, you just can't question it.
It like makes your faith like leap in a way. That's like,
Yeah,
it's just like, oh my
makes
days,
you
that's
excited.
sick. Like physical evidence
Yeah.
of like the God we know still doing stuff around the whole world with other people. And like, I just don't know why, but like testimony is just like, I feel like everyone should talk about testimony. Like we said earlier, like you're never the first person going through something.
Yeah.
So someone else has always probably gone through it or is going through it as well. And there's that like connection of like, you can help people, like people see a light at the end of the tunnel. Like I remember at Christmas, I started listening to these like, remember I told you that testimony channel was called like Laugh Testimonies. And like I was listening to them like all week, because I had the week off and I was doing nothing because like you were at work, everyone else was at work, so I just kind of had the days to take off. And like it just made me like so excited, because just like hearing real life people like talk about what God's done in their life or what He's still doing in their life is just like, it's just like so exciting.
Yeah, and I think it's such a powerful tool to see other people come to Christ, because I think sometimes the way we imagine like friends, family that don't know Jesus, like giving their life to Jesus is an instant, a moment where like their life's changed, which, as we've heard on this, like can so completely happen. But a lot of the time I think of it more as like a scale. Like they might start at like 0 and 10 is where they give their life to God, and like that something will push them to 1, something will push them to 2, something will push them to 3, and it'll be a journey of their faith gradually building and building. And I think sharing testimonies is such a powerful way to move people up that scale, because people that have never known or experienced Jesus, it's a lot of faith for them. So to hear someone that they know and trust sharing how it's impacted their life, can get them to closer to the journey of giving their life to Christ, which is what we want to see.
Goal, which is sick. So if anyone wants to watch like the full podcast, we can link that. Do you want to do like the like, subscribe? Go on, you can do it. Go on, like you're on it, like you're Molly May or something.
Okay, let's go. So if you liked the video, then give us a thumbs up. Subscribe, and we will see you soon. And I'll be back.
Like the Terminator. Down. Sick. Oh, that was
Bye.
fun. That was awesome.